The night sky hung heavy with clouds, thick and gray, ready to burst. Inside a small apartment in Seattle, Lena Carter sat by the window, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. The rain outside whispered against the glass, soft but relentless, just like the memories she tried so hard to forget. It had been years, but every single drop of rain still reminded her of Ethan Hale, the man who once made her believe that love could last forever. She closed her eyes, and in a heartbeat, she was back in that summer 5 years ago, the day she met him. It was a street music festival downtown, a chaotic symphony of noise, color, and laughter. The rain had started suddenly, sending people scattering for shelter. But Lena stayed, her face turned toward the sky, a smile playing on her lips. She loved the rain. It made her feel alive, cleansed, and utterly free. And that's when Ethan noticed her. He approached her with a wide, genuine grin, holding out his jacket as an offering. "You're either fearless," he said, his voice warm over the patter of the rain, "or completely insane." She laughed, brushing her wet hair away from her face. Maybe a little bit of both. That was it. That was all it took. A spark. A shared moment under the gray Seattle sky. From that day on, they became inseparable. Ethan was calm and grounded, an architect with a heart full of quiet, steady dreams. Lena was wild, a bit unpredictable, an artist who found beauty in chaos and color in the grayest of days. He was the anchor, she was the sail. Together, they created their own perfect little world, a universe built on coffee dates. Late-night drives along the coast, painting sessions in her studio that often dissolved into laughter and paint-smudged kisses. Their love was a masterpiece in progress. One evening, they sat near Lake Union, watching the sunset bleed across the water in hues of orange and pink. Ethan turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "You know what I love about the rain?" he asked softly. "It feels like it gives you a fresh start." Lena smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Then promise me," she said, her voice a near whisper, "if one day I can't find you, I'll find you in the rain." He looked at her then, his eyes soft and full of a love so deep it felt infinite. "Promise," he said, sealing it with a kiss. But life, in its cruel and unpredictable way, doesn't always keep promises. One ordinary morning, Ethan called her on his way to a site visit. His voice was cheerful, full of the day ahead. "I'll see you tonight," he said. "The forecast says it's supposed to rain. Let's sit by the window and listen to it together." That was the last call she ever got. Car crash on the highway took him away in an instant, a sudden violent stop to their beautiful song. The days that followed were a blur of unbearable silence. Lena stopped painting. The colors of her world had turned to gray. She stopped laughing. Even the sound of rain, once a source of joy, became a form of torture. It was no longer the sound of a fresh start. It was the sound of a final goodbye. Unable to bear the constant reminders, she left Seattle for a while, trying to outrun her sorrow in a new city. But grief is a stubborn companion. It travels with you. Every storm, every drizzle, brought his voice back, that promise, echoing in her mind like a song she couldn't turn off. Years passed. She tried to move on, to piece her life back together. She went on dates. She threw herself into her work. She smiled when people expected her to, but it was all a performance. Ethan's absence was a shadow that never faded, a void that nothing could fill. And then one evening, on her way home from work, the skies opened up again. The rain poured down harder than she'd seen in years. She froze for a moment on the sidewalk, the sound roaring in her ears. But then, without thinking, she stepped out into it. No umbrella, no hesitation. The cold drops hit her face, soaking her hair and clothes, and for a second, she could almost hear him whisper, "It's okay, Lena. Let it rain." So she did. She walked through the rain-slick streets, letting the storm wash over her, till she found herself standing in front of that old cafe, their cafe. It was still there, tucked between two bookstores, the same familiar wooden sign creaking softly in the wind. Her heart pounded in her chest as she pushed the door open, drenched and trembling. Everything was the same. The rich smell of coffee and old books, the soft jazz playing in the background, and the window seat where they had shared so many secrets and dreams. She slid into their old booth and, on instinct, ordered his favorite, a black coffee with extra sugar. A few minutes later, the barista, a kind-faced young man, came over. He held a small, weathered envelope in his hand. "Ma'am," he said gently, "this has been here for years. A man left it a long time ago. Said it was for someone who might come back one day, on a rainy day." Her hand shook as she took the envelope. It was addressed simply to Lena. She carefully opened it. Inside was a note, the ink faded and slightly smudged, as if by a stray raindrop long ago. Read, "If you're reading this, it means you found your way back. Don't let the rain remind you of what you lost. Let it remind you of what we had, 'cause love doesn't die. Lena just changes form." Tears slipped down her cheeks, mixing with the raindrops still clinging to her skin. She looked out the window at the storm, and for the first time in years, a genuine smile touched her lips. The pain hadn't vanished, but it had softened, transformed into something else. She whispered into the empty cafe, "I found you, Ethan. In the rain, just like you said." The night deepened, and the rain slowed to a gentle, calming drizzle. A soft wind brushed past her face through the slightly open window, carrying the scent of wet earth and a profound sense of peace. For the first time in so long, she felt him not as a ghost of the past, but as a living, breathing presence within her. The rain was no longer a wound. It was a promise fulfilled. Selena walked home under the soft glow of the streetlights. The rain still falling in a quiet, steady rhythm she finally understood. Some love stories never truly end. They just live on, in the gentle sound of the rain, in the Dilki Barish, the rain of the heart. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories that explore the depths of love and life. Until next time, take care.